Just a short anecdote. I've been doing public speaking for 40 plus years. Somebody told me once that it's not a bad idea to be nervous before you start speaking, which I am at the moment, and to have butterflies. The trick is to get the butterflies to fly in formation. So, Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Conservative Judaism grew out of the confusion between Orthodoxy and Reform and generally holds to the ideas that the truth found in Jewish scriptures come from God, but were transmitted by people and contain a human component. In some respects, it's a progressive movement which has sought to keep Judaism vibrant and meaningful by reconciling it with contemporary views. We revere Jewish traditions and seek to preserve all that is good in Judaism of the past while living in the present. It is the Judaism of the past in process of becoming the Judaism of the future with a conscience that strives for the prophetic ideal, to do justice, love kindness, and to walk humbly with God. We believe that all festivals and days of celebration or mourning be upheld consistent with traditional beliefs. We share the Orthodox conviction that traditional rites of passage should be followed, especially as they pertain to birth, circumcision, baby naming, bat and bar mitzvahs, death, and mourning. We believe that girls and boys should share equally in religious rituals and a Jewish education. And in our effort to accomplish the loftiest of Jewish ideals, we have sought to be gender neutral, where women and men sit together and participate as equals, where women can lead services, be called to the Torah, become rabbis or guest rabbis, and hold synagogue office. Which brings us to Parsha Pinchas and perhaps one of the more progressive decisions rendered by God through Moses. Among the early Hebrews, custom decided that the next of kin should enter upon the possession of the estate of a deceased person. The firstborn usually assumed the responsibility as head of the family and succeeded to control the family property. This became known as the law of primogeniture. When there were no sons, the dying man would appoint a trusted friend as his heir, sometimes to the exclusion of a near relative. Abraham, when he thought he would have no children, was going to appoint his slave Eliezer as his heir, although his nephew Lot was living. Even when there were children, it was within the right of the father to prefer one child to another in the disposition of property. Sarah, not wishing Ishmael to share in the inheritance with her son Isaac, prevailed upon Abraham to drive Hagar and her son out of her house. Later, Abraham sent away his children that he had conceived with concubines with only parting gifts, so that they should not interfere with the inheritance of Isaac either. Daughters were considered at that time as part of their father's property, so if the father died, then the daughters were given in marriage by whoever was the heir in their father's property. The exception to this custom was Job, who bequeathed a share of his estate to his daughter that was equal to that of the brothers. The story of the Daughters of Zelophehad celebrates not only the boldness that women possess, but also represents the power of the seemingly powerless to effect a profound change. Zelophehad had 5 daughters, Mahlah, Noach, Hoglah, Milcah, and Tirzah. And interestingly enough, the order of their listed names varies in different segments of the story to suggest the idea that all 5 women possessed equal wisdom. According to God's decree, the Promised Land was to be apportioned according to the number of names of members of the second generation counted in the census as recorded in Numbers 26, and since only the men were to be counted, Zelophehad's daughters would be left without an inheritance. At the time, there was a presumption that a connection existed between landholding and preservation of a name, a lineage. The daughters argued that their father's name, their father's lineage, should not be cut off from his clan just because he had no sons, and that they should be permitted to inherit his land portion. The daughters argued their case in front of Moses, Eleazar the priest, and the balance of the community. This must have represented a tremendous change in the way Israelites did business, because Moses sought God's counsel, who rendered the decision that if there are no sons, then the daughters shall have first inheritance rights. However, there was a caveat to this decision, a loophole, if you will. The male relatives pointed out to Moses that when the daughters got married, the land that they had inherited will go to the clans of their husbands and diminish the clan's holdings. Consequently, Moses announced that God does not intend any moving of land from tribe to tribe. Therefore, the daughters of Zelophehad must marry within their father's clan. As luck would have it, the daughters do marry within the clan and eventually receive their inheritance. The decision rendered by the Supreme Court is duly noted as the most progressive to date in the Torah. As a sidelight, it should be noted that there wasn't one attorney involved in this decision. Shabbat Shalom.